Today is January 26, 2023, and this is Conversations from Stritch. I'm Dave Livingston, president of Lewis University, and I'm joined by our provost, Christopher Sint, as always. It's hard to believe that we are almost done with the third week of the semester. It's full of activities this semester, as we will outline in a little bit. It's just amazing to me all that happens in any given week. I did want to acknowledge today with real sadness that Lowell Stahl, a long-serving member of our Board of Trustees, passed away yesterday. Lowell served on the Lewis Board of Trustees for over a decade, and he's been incredibly generous with Lewis University, establishing the Stahl Center for Entrepreneurship in the College of Business. Lowell's son Jeff serves on our board currently and is the secretary of the board. This Sunday, we are really excited about welcoming in some amazing high school seniors to campus. They will be interviewing for the LaSallian Scholarship Program. There's an opportunity for one or two of next year's first-year class to receive a full tuition scholarship. These interviews are set up by invitation only. They come onto campus January 29th, this Sunday, as well as Saturday, February 4th, to have conversations with our faculty and tell us a little bit more about themselves than what appears in their initial application. And then we have this amazingly difficult job of choosing among, I think this year it's over 125 really incredible students for these full ride scholarships. I did want to say a little bit, many of you who are alumni or parents have received the Lewis magazine in the last couple weeks in print. It's also available online on our website under the alumni section. But in the next few weeks, I'd like to offer a few just reflections on some of the things that are in the magazine. So much of what's in the magazine are events that we talk about every week on this program, guests that we've had, et cetera. But I'd like to point out a few things, one of which is in our annual report that you can see on there. And if you have the magazine or go to it online, you'll see these graphics. 26% of our undergraduate students are first-generation students. And what that means for those of you that, we use that language in higher ed all the time, it means that nobody in their family has completed an undergraduate degree. We are incredibly proud to serve both these students and these families to create new opportunities for them and really for their entire family system. And we know that it's both a little scary to send off your first child when nobody in your family's ever gone to school. And so we feel very honored to be able to take in that trust of those families. It's a great responsibility, and we believe we really offer an excellent educational experience for those students. So we're really proud to be able to do that, but 1 out of every 4 of our students is the first person in their family to ever get a college degree, and that it feels good, and it feels like it's really connected to our mission. So, Chris, I know you have some really exciting announcements, but also just some news updates.
Yeah, absolutely. Hello, good to be with everyone, and I do want to add to that, to those wonderful good news. The U.S. Department of Education recently awarded a 5-year grant of $2.5 million to the Lewis University Community School Consortium. This full-service community schools grant will bring together Lewis University partnering school districts in the area and over 20 community partner agencies to provide holistic wraparound services to local students and families in trauma-responsive and culturally relevant ways. This consortium is a collaborative project between Lewis, Valley View School District in Bolingbrook and Romeoville, and Fairmont District 89 near Lockport, along with numerous local organizations. The project uses a holistic, university-assisted approach to expand and strengthen trauma-responsive and restorative culture and climate within partner schools to work toward educational, social, health, and economic equity for students and their families. This is expected to transform all aspects of the educational environment in these schools, from teacher and staff training to meaningful engagement with students and families to enhanced procedures and policies in the district and in the schools. The partners form a network that will work toward building trauma-responsive and restorative practices within the 3 particular schools, Brooks Middle School, Bolingbrook High School, and Fairmont School, which is a pre-K through 8th grade. It's estimated that over 4,000 students will be impacted within the 5 years of the program. And I just want to thank especially the three great women who are the leaders of this project. Dr. Emily Shaman, Professor of Social Work, will be the director of the consortium. Dr. Joanna Marvia is the Professor of Education and will be the co-director, along with Laura Wilmarth-Tyna, our Director of Community Engaged Learning. The three of them together will lead the university-wide effort for faculty and staff from numerous colleges and departments across campus. Many of our centers, our community engaged learning area as well, all are going to partner, primarily impacting education, our teacher training program, our education department, as well as the social work department. But many other undergraduate students on campus are going to be invited into this project through community engaged learning. It's an incredible thing. It's so exciting. It's really speaks to so many aspects of our identity as an institution and in our role as a member of the local community, being able to really provide resources that through many years of conversation and dialogue with community, local community organizations and schools, really feels like there's a connection between what we have to offer as a university and what the real needs are in the community. So I'm super excited about that.
Really awesome.
Last week, or I guess 2 weeks ago, Lewis University kicked off its prison education program at Sheridan Correctional Center. 17 of the 1,249 men who are incarcerated in that medium security facility started or restarted their higher education journey with Second Chance Pell Grant, which I think we've announced probably several times before. We received permission to grant last year. The Illinois Department of Corrections and Lewis are partnering to give these students the chance to earn a bachelor's degree in professional studies. The flexible degree program has been tailored to help students develop their professional skills while learning, continuing to fill in the gaps in their learning. Many have gone to some college before. Faculty travel from our campus here in Romeoville to instruct students with the same coursework as students enrolled in our adult professional studies degree. And then a couple things to mark on your calendars, both an opportunity for some of our members of our community, our students, and just one educational opportunity to draw your attention to. Author and women's rights activist Dr. Elizabeth Griffith will discuss American women and their fight for equality at 7:30 p.m. on February 23rd in Convocation Hall here on the Romeoville campus. She is the Spring 2023 James and Mary Claire Saponiak Endowed Lecture speaker for that lecture series this spring, and the event is free and open to the public. Griffith will speak on her book called Formidable American Women and the Fight for Equality 1920 to 2020. It provides a century-long perspective and expansive cast of change agents in the fight by white and black women to achieve equality. It's a really exciting, distinguished scholar to have on our campus, and we're all looking forward to that. And then a reminder, finally, that February 28th is the deadline for students to apply for the Dream.USA scholarship at Lewis. The full tuition scholarship is for academically qualified and highly motivated high school or community college students who meet current immigration eligibility criteria, including DACA or TPS status. Lewis University is a partner college of Dream.US, the nation's largest college access and success program for Dreamers. So this partnership provides scholarships to qualified immigrant students who came to this country as young children or Dreamers. And then please refer for a complete listing of eligibility requirements. Visit thedream.us, we just put it on the screen a second ago, to submit an application before that February 28th deadline. So lots of amazing stuff happening on opportunities, and we're going to drill down a little bit and share some events that are happening in the next week.
Yeah, and I just want to comment on one of the things that caught my attention as you were going through this amazing list of all the stuff that's going on was in relationship to the grant that we received, and it just made me think of preparing communities for trauma and allowing them to kind of be resilient to that trauma made me think of the many mass shootings that we've had just in the last couple weeks. I mean, it's really, I think it's been striking to all of us. I hope we never get jaded to the way in which that impacts a community, and of course all the families whose loved ones have died or received trauma in that. But I think, not that, we just hope that this kind of work that we'll be doing over the next 5 years will, regardless of what the trauma might be, prepare these communities for that. The other thing I just want to, just make note of, because we will be talking about this, the DACA question and the Dreamer question. Next week I'll be in DC for the NICU meeting, which is independent colleges, presidents from all over the country come together and they go to Capitol Hill and they talk about, and we will be continuing to talk about doubling Pell. We got a little bit of a boost to Pell, so not only many of our students are first generation, but many of them are also Pell eligible. And so they got a little bump of about $500 this year. But the other thing, and I'll be meeting, the reason it made me think of it is Senator Durbin is one of the national leaders on the DACA and Dreamer question and trying to get that passed. And we'll be in his office in about a week and a half. And I know he'll bring it up and we'll bring it up because it's so important to our students. So I appreciate you talking about that and us, the work that I know you and your office have done to help that partnership with the Dream US work. So now on to some of the events. There are so many events going on, but I did want to talk through a few of them. We'll have a graphic up on the screen here in a second. I won't talk about all of them, but reminder that we have a chess club. They have a meeting on the 26th and ongoing meetings. We have a Habitat for Humanity is going to have their meeting on January 27th. We do have upcoming events, men's volleyball playing against St. Francis from Brooklyn. Our men had just won against St. Francis in Joliet in basketball the other night. Of course, we have an alumni day for both the women's basketball team and the men's basketball team against UIndy. Big game, and we'll have some more conversation about that coming up. So there's just a lot of great events going on. I won't go through the whole list that you just saw. Our Arab American Association has a meeting, a welcome meeting for everyone on January 31st. So, please take advantage of all of these events. The other thing that we just want to mention is this coming weekend, we do have some travel sports that are coming up. So some of our teams will be on campus, as I said, men's and women's basketball and men's volleyball, but women's bowling will be competing in Missouri. Men's and women's track are traveling to Allendale, Michigan to compete. And men's lacrosse begins their season with a scrimmage. I can't believe men's lacrosse is playing outside, especially because we have now 4 inches of snow on the ground, but they'll be playing in Lindenwood on Saturday. So now, it is time. A couple things, just a reminder. I think maybe you were going to do the reminder, but it doesn't matter. Ask us at lewisu.edu. Please send in your questions. And Chris is going to introduce our guest, which we're really excited about.
Yes, we absolutely are. I'm really pleased to introduce Keisha Newell, head women's basketball coach. Ms. Newell is in her first year and season here and comes to Lewis after spending the last 3 seasons as the head coach at Mother McAuley Liberal Arts High School in Chicago, where she also served as assistant athletic director. Prior to her time at Mother McAuley, Newell served as the head women's basketball coach at Roosevelt University in Chicago. A 3-year starting point guard at Loyola. She also went on to be an assistant coach with the Ramblers. She also holds a BA in business administration from Loyola, as well as a Master of Organizational Development from the W.E. Heller College of Business at Roosevelt. Keisha, very nice to see you and welcome you here.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for taking the time out of your
your
season.
We're excited to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we know that you're in the middle of a season and it's a little bit of a busy time, so thanks for coming over and spending some time with us. I guess I just mentioned your playing day, so maybe I'll start with a question about that.
Okay.
Tell us about why you chose Loyola, maybe, and what does a high school athlete think about when they're choosing where they're going to go, and what was it like for you?
For sure. So I actually attended the University of Southern Indiana in Evansville,
okay.
Indiana for one season. I think as a senior in high school, just getting the opportunity to play anywhere for me was a dream come true. So I spent a year at USI and then ended up transferring back home to Loyola University. And I think a big part of that was my family. So I was just so used to everyone supporting me, everyone being at every single game, and being 5.5 hours away from home was a struggle a little bit, albeit it was a great year, a great experience. I think Loyola just checked all the boxes for me, being close to home, a great education, and then the opportunity to play Division I basketball, which was huge for me.
Right.
So let me just follow up on that, because I know one of the other things we want to talk about is how your experience of going through that, and it's not, it's been a while, but it hasn't been so long that you don't remember it. But many of our students are transfers. Some of them come directly, right, from high school, and some of them are transfers. So you kind of understand both, right? You get that. What's it like to be a transfer student and come into a team as a sophomore? You also obviously started as a freshman and played a lot. So tell us a little bit about how the experience of having been a collegiate athlete helps you to connect to your players as well as recruit. Obviously, that's half your job is recruiting, half your job is coaching. Tell us a little bit about that.
It's huge. I mean, I walked in the same footprints, the footsteps that they're in right now, and I can relate. And I've been through the tough times and the great ones too. So I think just the experience and being able to relate, like you talked about, only builds the connection with our current student athletes. And yes, the transfer process for me was difficult because I had a great experience at both institutions. But I think just, developing as a person, developing my character through sports is something that I can take with me everywhere.
Yeah, that's great.
And what was it like to, again, something you can relate with is being a student athlete? It's a little bit of a different culture there than here probably, but what's it like in terms of balancing your studies and the demands of the sport that you're in and so on? What can you tell us about that leads you to have some understanding and empathy for the student athletes?
For sure, it's a challenge, and I think especially coming in freshman year, coming from senior year of high school and going to school for 7 hours and then practicing, it's a change when you actually have a little bit more free time and you're not in class every day, but you're also balancing now not just practice. So I think that, some people can just say it's practice, games, but it's not. It's lifting weights and eating well and study tables. So I think time management is huge and something that we try to help with in the transition, especially from high school to college. But I think it's great. I think it prepares young people for life after college, and they're on time and they're disciplined. And I think when they pursue positions when they're done playing basketball or whatever sport that it is, that they're ready to go for the real world. So it's great to see that transition from sports to real world.
Yeah.
So I'd love to follow up on that. So we'd love to hear a little bit about your coaching philosophy, but let me tie it specifically into something you just said, which is I spend a decent amount of my time talking to Lewis alumni, and many of them successful alumni who, C-level people or who do a lot of hiring. And I hear consistently how valuable it is to hire collegiate athletes, especially people who have been captains on a team. So could you talk a little bit about, from your perspective, from a coach's perspective, what you think being a collegiate athlete, being on maybe your team specifically, what you're trying to give to these student athletes that you think changes them in a positive way and makes them a better member of whatever organization they're going to go work for. Mm-hmm. So, I'm interested in that 4-year, and for many of them, it's been not a 4-year process. Many of our athletes started playing basketball when they were 6, right? And they've been, so from 6 until 22, and especially for you, what are you trying to help them to become as human beings? Because most of them aren't going to play in the WNBA or in the Olympics. Some of them might, and we have people that go overseas and do all that stuff. But talk to me a little bit about that.
I think that's a great question. I, for one, just want to empower young women, so give them a voice. I want to hold them to a high standard, not just on the court, but in the classroom and in life. And I think the big part of the transition from being a student athlete to having a real world job is the resiliency. So the adversity that we face on a day-to-day basis, as you all know, you learn so much more from the hard times than you do, the good times. So in our losses, we really try to, have a lesson and see how we can be better. And I think that experiencing failure in a controlled environment like sports is something that really builds character. So when they get into the real world and they have a project that they're working on and something goes wrong, it's not a panic. They can really think about, okay, how can I be better in this and what can I do to overcome to still be victorious in the end?
Yeah, I think it's such a good, I've used that theme in some of my talks about failing well. I think sports really does that. I mean, it basically does it no matter what. I mean, there's only one team in the country and they have lost sometime during the season. I mean, it's very unusual for a team to have an undefeated season. And the longer you go in that, kind of, in some sense, the more painful the losses, right?
Yes.
If you get to the Sweet 16 and you lose, it's like, so you really are forced by being on a team, as you say, to go through that process. And it just is always in front of you, right? Might lose tonight and win the next night. And you've had, I don't know if you want to talk, you've had you've had many amazing games this year, but you've had a game where you beat one of the best teams in the country, literally, like number 2 in the country, and then you've had a double overtime loss. So maybe in terms of the students, maybe we can just talk about just continuing this notion. How do you coach through that? Like the highs of a season and the lows of a season?
That is a great question as well, and I think the way you do it is to try to stay in the middle. So like you said, we were able to upset one of the best teams in the country, and I don't think we got too high. When we lost the double overtime game, although it hurts, we didn't get too low. So I think our theme and our goals from this year are to just remain in the middle. And our theme this year is 1-0. So we want to be 1-0 in every game. We don't want to look ahead to the conference tournament or to the NCAA tournament. We want the next game to be the most important game. And I think it's so far done well for us, and we want to continue to keep our head down and work hard.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
So let me change the subject slightly and ask also about the community, the culture that you have in the program. So you, this is your first year. Every first-year coach inherits student athletes who have been at the university before, players on the team before. Some of our players have had 3 coaches now. How do you go about helping with that transition and being a part of that transition and building your own vision of what a culture might be, knowing that there's one that you're inheriting as well?
For sure. That's just another great question. I think that was my focus coming in and knowing the history of Lewis women's basketball and actually having a player on the team that I coached in high school that, I kind of had a little bit of insight on what she went through, what the players went through over the last couple of seasons. So I think my initial goal was to, one, re-recruit our current players. So it's tough, always tough with the transition of a new coach, and then a new coach is recruiting different players too, so the current players can feel like, well, she didn't recruit me. So I wanted to make sure I established relationships with each person on the team before any playing time issues came up, right? Because as we all know, there are difficult decisions that need to be made. So in hopes of when we get to this point in the season and things do come up, that the foundation is there in terms of relationships.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful. We do have some questions.
Good, please.
Did you always know you wanted to coach? Or if not, when did that idea occur to you?
I did not know I always wanted to coach because I thought I would always continue to play. And I think as a student athlete, you're just so involved in
Wanna
everything.
know, right?
Right, exactly. I just never thought I would give up playing or have to, face the day where I could not play any longer. So I think as that time came, when I graduated, and that was really a reality check for me. I just knew I wanted to stay involved with the game of basketball. I was a point guard, so I thought the game a lot. I was required to have a high basketball IQ, and I just thought I could give back and relate to people, and this was the perfect position to do that.
So can I ask about basketball IQ? It's a great term. and we have all these IQs that we tend to use now. We, emotional IQ and da-da-da, all those different things. So you talked about just developing a relationship with each one of your players. So is it, as a coach, do you, is it intuitive for you? Is it a kind of a technical thing where you can kind of say, this first year player, they have a really high basketball IQ, and this person, they're really talented, but they don't have a great basketball IQ. And then is there anything you do to raise that? Like, are there coaching techniques in which, and as you said, being a point guard, you're running the floor, so to speak. But I'm just interested in that in terms of how people learn that. How important is it in your coaching to increase that? Or is it more important to increase stamina or free throw percentage? Or I don't know where that fits in.
For sure. I think basketball IQ is right up there with stamina, free throw shooting, jump shooting, defense. I think it's right up there. And honestly, I think it can improve once you get to college, but it's something that you need to learn at a young age. So you can be a phenomenal athlete. You can have the most skill in the world, but when you lace them up and you step on the court with other people and it's game time decisions and a coach can't tell you exactly what's going to happen next, that's where basketball IQ comes into place. And I think the way you develop that is just by watching basketball and playing as much basketball as possible. I think the game has kind of gotten away from playing. Back in my day, we played a lot of open gym, a lot of different runs, and now it's like, I have a trainer and I'm doing these skill workouts, but it's not really game-like situations. It's great. The game is progressing, but I think when you put players into that 5-on-5 atmosphere, it's not as developed as it was, 10 years ago to me.
That's interesting.
I just want to comment on that because I don't watch a ton of this, but every once in a while, the ESPN has these great mini documentaries. And every once in a while, they'll do something on there'll be a little clip about how much the professional NBA or WNBA people love that ability to get out of their normal routine in the off season and play pickup games with each other in these places. And it feels like that's kind of what you're talking. Like, any player at any level doesn't get as much of that as they used to. Free play, for lack of a better word. And it's good to hear you say that that's, because I know a lot of coaches are scared of that actually because of injuries.
Right.
And maybe we can talk about injuries and how they play into a coach's, mindset. But I hear you saying that there's something, the game teaches people. The game itself teaches not, I can teach you all these techniques, but the game that we can't predict, which is I think why we all love sports. There's very few parts of our lives now that are unknown. Sports are a mystery, right? How's it actually going to end? And that game, each game has this unique quality of being a teacher itself.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's cool.
So it just makes me think about how, just the idea of being intelligent at something is very faulty, in so many ways, and in not just in sports, but in, studying chemistry, learning how to play an instrument. You look really smart when you just practice over and over and over again, and then and then you show it to somebody else. They're like, "Oh, you're so good at this." It looks natural, but it's really about playing pickup games is sort of just doing repetition too, and just making something that's super complicated look really slow in action, right?
Yes, slow. I think that's the term that I use as a player, as a coach. When the game slows down for you, that's when you really start to execute the basketball IQ.
So not everybody knows what that means. I think we do, but what does that mean for an athlete? Like when you say that, like you're bringing the ball up the court, as the point guard.
Yep.
What does it mean that this game slows down?
It means you can see things before they happen. So you can make reads before they happen. And it's tough. Again, I talked about the seniors coming in as freshmen, and the game is so much faster. People are so much stronger. And when I say slow down, I mean, that you can literally see the next pass. You can see the defender jump in the passing lane. I know I'm using these basketball terms, but is literally in slow motion when it seems so fast for everyone else.
Yeah. It's because I know that cinematographers, like the people behind these cameras right now, they can learn those techniques. Like they can, in a film, they try to do that for people, right? They like slow it down so now everything else is moving, but I see it at this slowed down pace. And I think that's been interesting to watch cinematography try to capture the experience that I assume some athlete said to some director or writer at some point, like it slows down for me. And they're like, well, what do you mean? And then they tried to communicate it to the rest of the world. So it's an interesting phenomenon, I guess,
Yes.
So you mentioned, I'm totally going to change the subject here. So you mentioned when you were playing at Loyola, you came back to be closer to your family. It's noticeable if you're around the games that you have your own family close to you. What does that mean to you, and how's that working out, in terms of incorporating them into your new job?
Yeah, it means everything to me. My family is everything to me, starting, with my parents who are still here at games. They come to watch me coach, and my husband, who is amazing and was a collegiate athlete and a professional athlete. So we share that bond and love of sports, and our children, Cameron and Addison, who love the game already too, and they experience the highs of highs and the lows of lows, and it's really cool to see them celebrate with us and then also be sad when we lose too. So I just think having them around is great for them, it's great for me, and then it's also great for our players too, so they can see who I am off the court. And I just try to open up my life to them so they can see that you can manage being a professional and a woman and a career person and all of those different roles.
Yeah, totally. I have a bunch of random. Well, we have one
Go ahead.
more. We have one.
Go.
I'm down to my
go.
random list now.
You go.
So we did get another question that came through about, since you have so much experience with different levels, from high school to D2 and D1 at Loyola. What are the differences? Like for somebody who's not in the middle of it, how would you explain the differences?
For sure. I think the obvious difference is the competitiveness at the different levels, but I think they're all pretty similar. And I think for me, the impact is the same. Just being able, again, to empower and uplift. The Division I level, to me, is a little bit more of a business. It's more about the wins and losses, and summers are not off, so student athletes are there training in the summer. It is a commitment. Division II level, there's a life imbalance that I think is great for student athletes to still be able to get internships in the summer and things like that. So high school level, I just think everyone is all in. They don't know what's next for them. So it's cool to see that too. And I really enjoyed my time at the high school level because I just think everyone was locked in and all ears and, so bought in that you can truly see the effect right away that you're making on people there.
Type of community
Exactly.
engagement as well.
Yeah.
So I bet that's interesting.
So we haven't really asked a question that I'm interested in. So how's Lewis for you so far? We didn't even ask. Is the community been supportive of you? We just asked about your family's able to be here. That's awesome. But how have you felt, about coming into the Lewis community, and how's it been so far?
It's been great, wonderful, honestly. I think the people are so nice and welcoming, and I got a late start in July, and I think the coaches have helped me a ton, just, get acclimated. Dr. Planick is amazing. He was actually the athletic director at Loyola when I played there, so he was great then. I think he's great now, and the people, it's just all about the people. The student athletes really want to be here. I admire the relationships that they have with one another, so not just within their sport, but it's so cool to see our women's basketball team supporting the men and yelling on the road when, no Lewis fans are there. It's just us, and it's cool to see that and see them go to soccer games and volleyball games and things like that. So I'm enjoying it. I love the community aspect of it. It's been great so far.
Well, we're really, really pleased to have you, and, feel so excited about your future here at Lewis. So, it's been an amazing season so far, really, for season number 1, and coming in, as Chris said, with, and I will just say, not to jinx anything, but the problem is, since I've been here, we have had because they have all gone D1.
For sure.
Right, so we worry about like
Sticker.
don't be too successful because we want you to stick around for a long time. Just amazing success so far.
It sounds like you're wrapping up, but I have lots
I'm
more
not.
questions.
No, please go ahead. I'm just. Please continue.
I mean, yes, we are. It's wonderful that you're here, and I have some more detailed questions.
Okay.
So, transitioning a little bit to the season, sometimes people are curious about what you actually do every day.
Yes.
So, tell us a little bit about the practices and the workouts and how it relates to the game schedule.
Yeah, I mean, as we talked about earlier, it's not just practice, it's not just games, it's preparing the mind, the body, the weightlifting, the strength and conditioning, the study tables. We want to make sure that they're doing well in class. And then the recovery, I think, is overlooked too. So outside of practice, you have to make sure your body can perform and you want to recover well. So getting in the training room, we have an amazing training staff that helps us to recover better. And I think some of that stuff, kind of gets thrown under the radar a little bit. And it's important that it's a long season, so we have to make sure that everyone is healthy through that. So day to day, it can change a lot, but we have weightlifting, we have a little bit of conditioning, we have practices, we have some recovery on top of just our normal practice time, and then games as well.
Little side comment about the study tables, if I may.
Please.
Yesterday, I mean, you just reminded me of it. It's great. I love that you said that. We support our academic excellence of our student athletes. And sometimes people, I feel like I have a lot of conversations where people don't really deeply understand, or they make assumptions about student athletes. And I often, remind people that their grade point average as a whole group, all of our student athletes at Lewis is really high. Yesterday we just found out our fall grade, so that's why it's on my mind. And the student athletes are, as a whole, above 3.4, which is amazing. Not that it's a competition, but women's basketball team is the second highest of the entire group. You already knew that, I can tell. So they're amazing. They come in, as really sophisticated, smart students as well as great athletes. It's just a reminder that we also support that because their lives are so busy, and we need to provide them, that kind of support when they're on the road and as well. Okay, so tell us about UIndy.
UIndy is tough, and I've heard that they're our nemesis, so it's typically been a tough matchup against them just because they're so gritty. They're tough. I think that we are a very disciplined team, though, so we have been through so much over the course of our short season that I think we're ready. And if we can come ready to go from the jump, we've been through some things that I think if we get hit a couple of times and if we see a little bit of adversity, we can respond well. And it's great that it's at home. We haven't had a ton of home games this season, so it's always great to be back here, especially with alumni night, and we want to make sure we're representing Lewis well for them, and it'll just be a fun, really fun game.
And I do want to just say, because they are our nemesis, not just in basketball, but I will say, and they just transitioned presidents, but Rob Manuel, who used to be the president at UIndy, is now the president at DePaul.
Okay.
I don't know if you knew that. So he's now president at DePaul, and I've been here 7 years, and probably 5 of those 7 years, UIndy has won. So we have a trophy that we get for total kind of points from all the sports, and UIndy almost always wins it, and we're almost always second. So we want to take that away from UIndy, because it's just so frustrating when every year we're they'll read off the top 3 points, and then it's UIndy gets the Anyway, so let's we'll just keep working at it.
Yeah.
And both of you know about this, so maybe you could both explain what Alumni Day is.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, for us, it's just welcoming back the people who made us who we are today. We wouldn't have some of the resources, the opportunities without the young men and women who walked in our current student athlete shoes, and we want to honor them and acknowledge them and interact with them and continue to build those relationships with our current students.
And we do appreciate the work that the advancement group does on campus. to, they have these databases of all of our, basketball alumni that have, and where they're at, and send out reminders and try to get them to come. So it's an opportunity for, the board chair, our board chair is, his jersey is retired. So Michael Parker is a former basketball player, retired jersey, amazingly successful career, but also deeply committed to the success of our current students. And so trying to, bring those two worlds together, because, it's also a networking opportunity, I mean, we have 50,000 alumni. I don't know how many basketball alumni have, but let's say we have 600 or 700, and making that connection between our current athletes and our former athletes can be a really great opportunity.
There's some programming and
Yep,
food and
exactly.
opportunities
All
for
those things.
alumni to kind of get together and meet the current players
And also meet each other again.
Yeah,
Just
right.
I graduated in 1975, and I graduated in 2005, and I graduated in 2015. Those players can talk to each other, so it's a fun event.
Sure, Mr. Larry Tucker is another big one.
That's
He
right.
is,
We
and
actually-
Larry's also on our board of
I know.
trustees. So
I know.
yeah,
It's quite a basketball board right now.
it is. I think I really
There
do
are
think we
three.
have
There are
or
three.
four, right?
Or maybe
Didn't
four, yeah.
Tim and Larry? No, Jane's not on the board
we
anymore.
have a former board member. She's a women's
Jane
basketball.
Condon played for
Okay.
for the women's team, and she was an amazing athlete in her day. So yeah.
Well, thank you so much. So glad you're here, and that this is a really exciting season. It's really fun to watch. You have some fans in the room with us, I noticed, or some players in the room with us who are here to support you, which is always wonderful to feel that support. I feel it.
It's awesome. Yeah, coming
so-
in to support Coach.
Thank you.
Wow.
It's a good thing.
I didn't even see them walking in. There
they are. They're here for you.
Yeah, you're focused.
That's
All right.
great.
Well, thanks.
Of
Yeah.
course.
That's great.
Of course.
Yeah, thank you so much, Coach, for coming in and taking a little time with us and sharing, with the people that both watch this today. We get some people who watch today, and then a lot of people who tend to watch it over the coming week or the next couple weeks. So, grateful for you sharing your insights of not just about yourself, your journey, but then also the team. And we wish you nothing but the best the rest of the way out. We'll focus on one game at a time, but I won't say all the things that I want to say because I don't want to ruin your philosophy. But we're really looking forward to the rest of the season, and I hope this weekend goes well.
Appreciate it. Thank you all so
Absolutely.
much.
So thank you all for joining us today. It's always a pleasure. We have so much to be proud of here at Lewis. So have a great weekend. We wish you all well, and many blessings to you and all those that you love.